Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Video Voters Guide and podcast. My name is Debbie Kay with the League of Women Voters of Portland. We're here to talk with candidates running in the May 19, 2026 primary election. The League is grateful for the support of the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the Weiss Foundation, the Sarah Fruing Fund, members of the League of Women Voters of Portland, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. With me right now is Michael Lee, running for Multnomah County Circuit Court Judge, District 4, Position 14. Welcome, Mr. Lee.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for having me here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting such a great resource.
Appreciate that. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this office.
I'd be happy to. So, as you said, my name is Michael Lee. I'm 37 years old. I'm a born and raised Oregonian. I'm currently employed at the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office as a prosecutor, and I've been here since 2016. Currently assigned to the juvenile unit responsible for prosecuting juvenile offenders accused of sex crimes. I'm also an officer in the Oregon Army National Guard. I'm a major, a field artillery officer, and I've been commissioned in the Oregon Army National Guard since 2011, twice deploying to the Middle East in support of operations in the Central Command area of responsibility. I'm running for Multnomah County Circuit Court Judge, Position 14, because I have a long history of public service in my professional career, and I want to further that as a judge because I believe this is the next step in which I can make a bigger impact on the community in my capacity as a public servant. So being able to make the decisions rather than being an advocate or a litigant, I believe is a way for me to influence the community and do good in the community, give back as a public servant. So that is why I'm running.
Thank you. Position 14 is designated as a courtroom in which to handle family law docket, as opposed to general civil and criminal cases. Please describe what the most significant considerations would be for you as a judge in custody cases.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So the factors that you consider in child custody cases are laid out in the Oregon statute. The primary guidepost or the primary consideration, as it is in custody cases and in many areas of law when children are involved, is what's in the best interest and welfare of the child. So if you look in the statutes, and that's Oregon Revised Statute, and I'll throw out some numbers here, 107.137, it shows 6 factors in there that a court shall consider when they're trying to make a decision about custody cases. Now, I won't bore you by listing all those, and we have limited time, but I think the important thing to note is that these factors as listed, the court is not allowed to disregard one factor or make a decision just based on 1 or 2 factors. They have to consider all 6 factors, and they're allowed to consider other relevant factors. So for the court's consideration, the main and primary and only consideration for custody cases is the best interest and welfare of the child, and the statutes and the cases have laid out certain factors that the court must consider and the court could consider in order to make that decision. Many of them are kind of common sense when you look at them, kind of like which parents want to continue having a relationship with a child, and then the interest of the child, emotional ties between the child and family members. So there are sort of common sense factors that are included that the court must consider.
Thank you. What would be the most significant considerations for you as a judge in dealing with self-represented litigants?
Yeah, so self-represented or pro se litigants are very common in family law. Something like 70 to 80% of people come to family law court without an attorney. So the biggest thing for me would be ensuring that people understand the process. Family law judges have to have an even temperament. It's good if they have some sort of background in educating or communicating with people, which I do as an Army officer. Coaching, teaching, and mentoring is something that's the bread and butter of Army officership, which is stewarding the profession and bringing up the generations of officers after you. So I have some experience in that. it's directly relevant to teaching and coaching self-represented litigants in a process in which they may not have any formal training or any legal training. So making sure that the court takes extra time to ensure that litigants understand what's going on, understand the court's decisions, understand the court's findings, even if they don't agree. My goal would be to ensure that at least they understand why I made certain decisions and findings when they leave the courtroom, because these are highly emotionally charged cases because they deal with families and children. And so it's important for me as a judge candidate that if I make it on the bench, that people understand why I'm making decisions that I am.
Thank you. You're listening to the Video Voters Guide interview and podcast with Michael Lee, running for Multnomah County Circuit Court Judge, District 4, Position 14. Our next question: what would be the most significant considerations for you as a judge in dealing with child witnesses?
Yeah, child witnesses are special, right? Because, a child under the law could be anywhere from 17 years of age all the way down to a competent witness might be 3, in extreme case, maybe 3 if they're a mature 3-year-old or 4 or 5-year-old. So being a prosecutor, I'm also familiar with the Oregon Department of Justice Oregon Child Forensic Interviewing Guidelines. And based on my experience, children should be asked questions that are open-ended, focused, and then sometimes closed-ended to ensure that you're not leading the child to say certain things and you're not coercing the child to say things. And that seems kind of obvious, right, when you kind of put it that way. And I think a big consideration for me, too, is I have to ensure that the child wants to testify. This can be a very traumatic experience, emotionally charged, especially in a case of custody battles where you have 2 parents who might be fighting over who has custody of the children. That is a very delicate situation with children witnesses. As a judge, I'd have to make sure that children are not being coached or coerced to testify by either party, that they want to testify and what they're saying are their own thoughts, their own ideas. And so that's very important for me as a judge. And if a child doesn't want to testify, I would not want them to testify.
Thank you. I'm sorry that we've run out of time. This concludes our Video Voters Guide and podcast interview of the League of Women Voters of Portland. Michael Lee is running for Multnomah County Circuit Court Judge, District 4, Position 14. Election Day is Tuesday, May 19th. To find additional election resources, including online identification of other candidates and ballot measures on which you may be able to vote, please visit the League of Women Voters of Portland's website, lwvpdx.org, and also visit vote411.org, and then exercise your right to vote. Ballots will be mailed starting April 30. For your vote to be eligible to be counted, your ballot must be received by the Multnomah County Elections Division or in one of the designated ballot drop boxes in Multnomah County no later than 8 p.m. on Election Day, May 19th. We strongly recommend that if you are depositing your ballot with the United States Postal Service, you do so no later than Tuesday the 12th, 1 week before Election Day. Your voice and your vote matter. Thank you for your attention.